How do you digest the tape of the Oklahoma State game where you get up 30 and then let a little bit of that slip in the second half?
Yeah, sometimes it's part of it when you get up that much, you kind of let off. And TJ tried telling us, like, 0-0 mindset. So we just got to be better in that area, just coming out with that same aggression and just be a learning moment. Obviously, we still got the win, but we would have liked to win by more after having that lead.
Could you explain the dynamic of you kind of making your own success, but also being dependent on your players moving the ball and how that creates opportunities for you? I guess, how do you feel like you create your own success when you're on the floor?
Yeah, a lot of it just comes from crashing the glass. I can get a lot of easy buckets there if I crash the glass hard, and I was able to do that in the second half of the Oklahoma game. This is just big energy plays, when we weren't really having a lot of offense. He likes to talk a lot to us about, like, being an elite offense, and that's part of it. So just trying to bring energy, and I can do that myself. I don't have to rely on anyone else to do that. But a lot of the ways is, when we move the ball, if I do a good enough job and our team does a job moving the ball, then it gets me open in space, and then I just got to make the right play.
Can you describe how much more difficult things might be for you guys when things are stagnant and the ball isn't moving?
Yeah, I think, when we lost those 2 games and we were kind of coming out slow, I think that had a lot to do with it. And then we really just started attacking practice harder, making more of an emphasis that we need to move the ball faster, and we watched some film when we did, and then we kind of came out just trying to do that.
What was that moment like in practice when you're whipping the ball around like that and you're feeling it, and you know that this is going to translate, this is going to get us go rolling again? I mean, was there exhilaration you're feeling a little bit like, hey, we're getting back to what we
Yeah, for sure. But sometimes, we got to remember we're also playing against our own defense, and our defense makes it really hard for us to swing the ball around. So it's challenging. Sometimes it's more difficult to do it to ourselves. It's a lot harder to do it to ourselves. But if we can do it against our defense, then it kind of makes everything else easier. So that's one thing that's nice about playing each other is we attack each other, we're aggressive, and so when we get into games, it kind of makes things feel easier.
How have you seen Joshua's leadership evolve from the day you met him?
Yeah, no, Jay Jeff's been great since summer. I knew him last year when I was trying to get him to come to Virginia, which is kind of crazy now he's here, but he does a great job. He talks, he's getting more vocal, but a lot of his leadership just shows on the floor with how he plays, just with the way he does, the way he attacks every day, the way he attacks games. We kind of just feed off his energy and feed off what he does.
Was it hard to get a read of him when you were trying to get him to come to Virginia? And you said how
Yeah.
crazy is that, but I mean, think back, what if that had happened?
Yeah, no, he was quiet on his visit. We were trying to talk to him, and he didn't say a whole lot. So when I first came here, that's kind of what I remembered, him being a little bit more quiet. But once you get to know him, he's great. So it's been awesome to be playing with him.
What did you see out of St. Mary's, Joshua Jefferson, that would have worked in Virginia, and maybe how far has he come since that player?
Honestly, I didn't really know what he played like at St. Mary's. I just was told to come to Coach Bennett's house and hang out with him, so I did. I don't remember what it was like. I just knew he was a good player, and when obviously coaches bring someone in and they say he's good, then obviously you want him there. So
What did you guys do at Coach Bennett's house that day?
just hang out. He usually brought some food over. We just played some board games. We played Spot It. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. We usually just used to hang out at his house, watch some games, just super chill environment.
Seems like you guys have had chemistry since day one. How much of it does go back to having those roots before Iowa State?
Yeah, obviously, and I think, we do such a good job in the summer of being connected, and I think in the summer they really tried to get us two on the same team together, just really get that chemistry building. But then it's like off the court, we have a good relationship, so I think that obviously helps everything. Like, he wants me to succeed, I want him to succeed, and when you guys kind of have that, like, you just want to play for each other, and it helps out.
So last off season, was Josh involved in your recruiting process here?
Not really. I kind of knew I was coming here right away. Like, I texted Milan a little bit because I knew Milan in high school. But there wasn't a lot of, when I came on my visit, there wasn't really anyone here because it was just right after the season loss. So that didn't really have a lot to do with it.
How have you guys gotten back to playing at a high level after a week blip where really you guys did not look like yourself in those two games?
Yeah, I really just started in practice. We had those two losses, and then we kind of came out and just, the coach was like, we're going to be physical, we're going to be aggressive. He's like, you got to tag each other in practice, tackle each other. So we just tried to kind of going at each other. We started kind of smack talking each other, just getting competitive, and you can really see how that carried over. So I think just keeping that same mentality in practice and it's going to translate over the game has been really good for us.
Is a low point like that? I mean, obviously every low point's different, but is it inevitable in a season that you got to hit that spot to jump back?
Yeah, I think you want it's kind of like you don't when we're winning that many games, you don't want to get too high, but you want to get too low. You kind of got to ride that middle, and I think we maybe kind of got too comfortable with where we were at. We're winning, even if we may be starting slow, not playing as good, we're still able to find a way. So we're kind of just comfortable with that, and then obviously with us losing, kind of just made us realize that we got to lock in. And I think it sucked losing, but sometimes it can be really good for you if you use it the right way, and I think that's what we did.
Is that a lesson you probably have to learn more than once, just because you get comfortable and forget what it was like to just scratch, claw, and fight your way?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we were in the summer, we were practicing pretty hard, and in the fall we're practicing hard. And then, you get some of those wins, you see their rankings. So it's really hard, especially with the way social media is these days. Just you go on, you see all the hype about us, just making sure that whatever they say, you kind of just goes in one ear out the other, and you can just stay level-headed. And I think that's kind of what we got back to. It doesn't really matter what other people think. We just got to do what we do.
With last summer and you get here and you guys are doing all the MMA stuff, and I don't know kind of what you thought coming from Virginia, if that was similar to what you guys did, but looking back on that, and now you're ever many games into the Big 12 season, is that kind of you see and now that kind of is helping you guys? Yeah,
and I think a lot of the reasons why we do those team activities in the summer or in the fall when we did MMA was just find different ways to fight through things, just different ways for us to bond outside of basketball. Just kind of see what some of us are good at, some of us are bad at. We can kind of mess around with each other. It's really just learning, how to be with each other. And, we do so much basketball, just let's go have fun off the court and enjoy each other. And I think that's what it's really all about, just with the transfer portal you add. I think we had, 9 new guys this year, and that can be really hard, especially that's kind of what I was like at Virginia. When you have all those guys coming, you got to figure out how to balance it and bring in, try to include people. And so I think TJ does a really good job of doing that for us, and then we just got to make the most of it, and we did.
How would you describe that game you said you played? Spot It? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so it's basically there's a circle card, and there's a bunch of different symbols on them, and there's a stack, and then did teams, so each team would take a card, and you'd have to, each card there'd be a matching symbol, so you'd have to, if it's a spider or water or sun, so you'd have to try to say it, and then whatever side got the most. So we'd always go the recruits and players versus the coaches.
Okay.
So we kind of just compete, and we usually had a good time with it.
As one of the newer guys here, just how has your perception of Taman evolved since you first met him, and what kind of weight does his word have around you guys?
Yeah, Taman means a lot to this program, and he's done a lot for this program. And when I first got here, he was one of the guys on my visit, so I got to hang out with him a little bit. But you can kind of see, when we didn't have him, for those couple of games and even practice, you can see, how much he brings to this team and how much he means to this team. But me and Taman did a lot of golfing this summer. I think that was a really good way to, kind of get to know him. And, we started to talk more, outside of, being here. Just, him being the point guard and me being the 5, we play a lot together. So just kind of getting that chemistry. And I think it was really good for how much we hung outside of, basketball. And I think that really helped just where we're at now.